Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to my progress report for July 2024. So we're right at the middle of the month. Well, it's the 15th of July today as I'm filming this. And I started out with Chris's inked pens. I had 6 of my letter writing pens inked up, and I had 9 TWSBI Ecos. Well, I've got 8 letter writing pens now, so I added back in the Jinhao X750 with a broad goulet nib, and I'm using the Diamine Moon Dust. I thought there was a big problem with this, but I laid it aside and then I picked it up to troubleshoot it, and it was fine, and it hasn't given me any trouble since, so I have no idea what kind of anomaly that was about, but it's fine now. And then I also got inked up the TWSBI Diamond 580 ALR or AL. It's the clear one, and it has a medium nib, and I put in Diamine Rustic Brown because a pen friend sent me a surprise package with some inks, and this was in it, and I thought, let's try that. I think I may have had a sample of it years ago, but I couldn't find a tile, so I made a new one. And you know, it leans really red, so it's quite fun. So these are the additions. I just wanted to make sure and mention that because we've gone over it all in the other video except for those two. So we'll do the report card first because my brain won't let me come back to it, I guess. And then we'll go through the individual pages where I work through everything so far to kind of practice with everything. So the first one, the Lamy Safari, this is the white and red with the 1.1 stub nib. It's an A. It's working really, really good. I do notice that it's a little bit partial to the Tomoe River paper, and when I get over onto Cosmo letter writing paper, which is what I'm using up right now, it feels drier and it isn't quite as flowy, where I kind of want to switch to a broad nib just for that paper, which is so unusual, but that's where I'm at with it. But I definitely give it a solid A with that nib, and I haven't changed it yet because I wanted a stub nib included. So I could at any moment put a broad Lamy nib, and I think it would then flow better across all the different papers. But it doesn't really matter to me that much. So the next one is the Benu Scepter 1. With the Robert Oster Lake of Fire, and I gave it an A+. This is awesome. It's just really smooth, and I'm really pleased with the color. I love it. Not that it's a match for this gorgeous pen. This is much brighter of a blue, but it just is one of my old favorite inks, and I love it. So then next up, an ink that I kind of had, not overlooked, but I hadn't written with in a while, is the Laban Zues. I put it in a TWSBI Go with a broad nib, and I'm confusing myself now because when I look at this, the nib looks plenty broad, but I can't remember which one this is. It's one I switched on to here, so maybe it's just not as broad, but I feel like it's it could write wetter, and I'm surprised. But it's fine, and it does okay on the Tomoe River paper for letter writing. I haven't had any trouble. But then I get it, like, again, over on the Cosmo, and I'm not quite as pleased with it. So it just got an A instead of an A+. But that's pretty nitpicky. I love this color. So I'm going to be exploring more options for it because I really want to see more of it in my inked pens, really. And this is just a start. This is just one particular, but that does look like a nice broad. I don't think I've ever had any trouble with it. So I don't want to come out and say an ink is dry because I haven't really written with it enough to say that, but I just noticed a difference, I think, between some of the others. Like, for instance, the next one, in the Benu Talisman, the Sakura Cherry Blossoms, this has a broad nib on it, and I put in the Sailor 50 States Louisiana, which is just a yummy colored ink, and it gets an A++ because it's got that extreme flow, and it's a gorgeous color. Let's get the tile on that one too. Yeah, this is one of those colors. It almost looks like the King Philip, right? But it's safer, much safer, and not so, yeah, the Noodler's King Philip Requiem, am I even saying the name right? It's so gorgeous, but it's sort of like a terrorist of inks. Oh dear, it'll probably take forever for them to check this video. Anyway, I shouldn't say words like that. This is an A++, and it's my favorite ink up of the month, so I was really pleased with that. So then next is the Jinhao 9019 in the clear and gold edition with Pilot Irosizuku Asagayo. I give it an A. It's surprisingly awesome. Like, I've done very little to this, just a tiny bit to try to open the ink up, but I haven't even gotten out the brass shims yet, which I still plan to do because I think it needs to be just a little bit more flowy. I don't like to ever have to put much pressure at all when I'm writing. I like something that just flows right along, and this is almost there. So I don't want to do anything drastic. I want to keep going real slow with it till I get it right at my sweet spot there. I'm just really enjoying it. It's a gorgeous pen. It flies way above its price level. Let's put it that way. I am so pleased with it. Okay, and that was an Amazon purchase I made before my ink fast. I mean my pen fast, my hobby fast, my no-buy, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so next up is the Lamy All-Star White Silver with a broad nib and Laban Athena. Well, I felt like for such a dark gray, that broad nib was just putting down way too much ink. So I went the other way and put a fine nib in it even before I did my pages. So when we look at the good longer sample, it's going to be with the fine nib. And I'm now sort of leaning toward, well, maybe a medium is the sweet spot. I like the ink very much, but I felt like it was just too with the broad nib. So, and if it had been a color like the Louisiana, I think I would have been fine with it. But that's a pretty dark gray. So it leans toward looking really black, and I don't know, it looked almost like it was putting way too much ink down. So then the pen that I went back to that is now giving me no trouble at all, the Jinhao X750 with a broad goulet nib, that's been wonderful. And of course it's got that sparkly ink in it. I'm not sure if we can see that, maybe. Between my glasses and the lighting, I don't know. But I've been really happy with it, and I gave it an A+, which is amazing since I was so disgusted with it the day that I did my initial video for the month. I didn't even include it except for to complain about it. So who knows what that was all about. And then next up, the TWSBI Diamine 580 AL with a medium nib and rustic brown, Diamine rustic brown. I'm giving it an A+. I'm really enjoying how smooth it is, and this nib is awesome too. I'd forgotten how nice this Diamine 580 medium nibs are. They really are nice. They put down a lot of ink. So, you know, even though it's dark, I can see the color. I can see that it's a kind of a rusty dark brown, reddish. Even on, you know, in my writing, it doesn't turn it into looking black, which I enjoy very much. I don't know what the lighting's doing to it though. I think you can probably see from the smear. So let's just go right on forward into the pages. And this was the Lamy Safari with the stub nib. I love that color, that Diamine Wild Strawberry. It's gorgeous. It's quite startling of a color, and I really love it. And it looked great whenever you use the water brush, which I love to do too. And then next up, the Benu Scepter with Robert Oster Lake of Fire. Another one that I'm just crazy about. It holds right up. It doesn't fade out with my fast writing, and it's just wonderful. Oh, I was doing very last minute preparations. At the time I was writing this, we thought the hurricane was coming right here to Corpus Christi. And we have to, when you see yourself in the cone of uncertainty, you have to plan as if it is anyway. You have to do everything absolute as if you're going to get an even higher powered storm, because that way you don't regret it. You know, you've made your preparations, and a lot of them are not wasted. So there's a lot of blabber about about stuff we were doing last minute. Okay, and, you know, not very last minute, because we don't do that. But okay, so then next up was the TWSBI Go in the smoke with the Laban Zues, and I really love this. It's super nice on the Tomoe River paper. Yeah, the hurricane started tracking a little bit east of us, so you start breathing just a little bit better. You don't want anyone to get it, but you start to breathe better if you see a report like that. Oh, and I had kept my cats in that day, and they were really upset because they like a little morning time outside. So there was a kitty report. But yeah, this is a beautiful ink, and I know that I'm going to try it in more pens. I'd like to see it in a number 6 broad nib too. That'll be great. And gosh, I think I could just go put it right into one of my Euphorias, and those have a nice broad flowy nib. So okay, then next up was the Benu Talisman with the Sailor 50 States Louisiana, and I'm getting incredible shading. I hope you can see that. It's really nice shading, and it's that really dark to bright that I love to see. Gorgeous. Oh yeah, and here I indicated I used channel money to purchase my cat Coco an appropriate size pet carrier. Yeah, we were having some nonsense about cat carriers since we've added a whole nother cat, and we had 3 carriers, but we had one that recently sort of failed, and I didn't want a duct taped carrier really. So anyway, now I feel good because each cat has a really good one, and we upgraded Coco to a little bigger one. I felt like I needed to do it right then and have it to make sure for worst case scenario. Okay, then next up, I had a lot of fun with this. I love doing this kind of thing. I just sort of traced around the pen and had a lot of fun with that. But this is really wonderful. Let's see, and I said the pen writes wet enough, but in fast writing, I still would like it to flow a little better. Yeah, so in faster writing, it didn't skip. It was just that I wasn't holding the pen quite to the page the way. I'm just not used to having to do that because I want it to flow. I'm going to continue working on it very slowly. Don't want to overdo it. Hi, Coco. Where you been? Oh, he looks grumpy. Grumpy cat. Oh, the look he gave me. Doing a video without him. Oh, dear. Okay, so next is the Lamy All-Star White Silver with Laban Athena. And this is beautiful. Let's see. Oh, okay, I did both pages. I was going to say, what happened? I thought I changed it to a fine nib. I did. So now we get to see, but unfortunately not side by side. This was with the broad nib, and I thought it looked pretty dark and sort of took away it's just too much ink was going down. So then I put it in a fine nib, and I didn't really feel like it was too little or anything after that, but I did have the thought that maybe the medium nib would be better. So it's so easy to switch the Lamy nibs anyway. But I kept the fine nib in. I'm just not using it quite as much for letter writing anymore. And I thought I should have just left it. But when I was letter writing, it just felt like I was using a black ink. So anyway, that's just for what it's worth. I don't feel that way with this one, with the Jinhao X750 with the moon dust, Diamine moon dust. I feel like it still looks nice and gray even in the broad nib. So that was really cool. I like that, and I'm really happy that it hasn't given me a lick of trouble. I didn't think it would, because that is one of the inks. All the JR Bonds that I've tried, except for one of the black ones, and then the many of the Diamine ones, they seem to flow really well. So now we get into some of the extra stuff here. I wanted to include the other 3 of the 9 that I have inked up. I have them all in a separate pen case. TWSBI Ecos that I was doing my little experiment. So this was the and I'll go ahead and on the end screen, I'll leave you a link to that video in case you missed it. It was my pre-fountain pen palette, the colors I used to use. And then these were the more updated, like what I would choose now. And then back here, let's see, I had my initial ones. It would be the TWSBI Murasaki Shikabu, the Pilot Murasaki Shikabu, and the TWSBI Sky Blue, and Diamine Hope Pink. So I had written with these in here, plus my black, my gray, and my red. But we've already covered that. But this is kind of like my comparison of what I would pick now. would be much more saturated, a little either brighter, darker in this case too. So I just included them in here because I thought it would be nice to do. And then these are some of the inks that came in a real surprise pen pal package from DB, Pen Friend DB, and it was the rustic brown that made me want to ink up. I was using a Nemesis medium dip pen. Let's see, it's over by the sink, I think. And I keep staining the body of that dip pen because it's white. And then I pulled out the Sailor Hokoro, and I thought, I'm going to try that right away. Oh, and I now have a sample of the Platinum Shukuro, that really black ink, so I can't wait to put that in a pen. I think I have the pen that I wanted to use. It was the Pilot 78G. I think I'm going to put it in that. It'll be a nice fine nib, and it'll be really cool. So these are the ones, and I'll be trying these out more. And I also got a bag of samples in after that I didn't have time to put in here that are all Birmingham. So I'm going to try to include some Birmingham inks in my next Chris's Inked pens. Okay, so then at the last, this was a pen that I inked up just not on the 14th, but I've only had a few days with this, but oh, it's writing so good. Oh, let's see, I said make an ink tile, and I did that, so I'll go ahead and check that so I don't come back in later and think I still have to make one. I couldn't believe I didn't have an ink tile for this, but I didn't. So there we have it. That was the report card and the writing samples. I'm just going to go ahead and put the tray of pens over here so we can talk for just a minute. And then I'm going to go to the library so we can chat. So yeah, like I said, this is my favorite. The combination of that Louisiana, oh, that ink is just, whew, I'm going to cry when that's gone. It's a 20 ml bottle, but it's just gorgeous. And I do have some others, like I even have Noodler's Cactus Fruit Eel, I think comes pretty close. And there's quite a few pretty ones in this, so it's not like I'm desperate. I just am feeling like, wow, that is such a nice ink. And then, I'm so happy with this. This feels like, getting away with something when you can get a pen for so little money that writes so good and looks so pretty. And of course this is, still kind of enchanting me too. It's such a beautiful pen, so unusual. It looks like a mascara instead of a pen, but it's gorgeous. So I think we'll just hop on over. I've got a couple just topics to chat about, of course, from the library. And Coco's still looking at me kind of funny. So I'll meet you over there. There, made it over here. Okay. So the first thing I was going to talk about was how differently I kind of approached things for July. I decided to put a bunch of my TWSBI Ecos and the one TWSBI Mini in this Levenger case and just, carry this around with me in the library and other places that I go, just to journal and note take and everything like that. And I decided to leave the, just have the tray of pens for my letter writing totally separate. And that has worked out really good. I'm surprised I hadn't thought of that before. It is a lot of pens to have inked up, but the TWSBI Ecos won't dry out right away. And I feel like it's a better strategy. I was kind of carrying the tray around with me, but I don't really want to do that. Sometimes I do take the journal over there and sit down and journal there at the pen desk, but that's generally where I write letters. So it's generally a mess. Once I start getting envelopes and return address stuff out and cutting things and doing letters, then I really create a mess there. So it's nice to have different little areas to work. So that has really worked out good. And I just wanted to mention it just because I thought it was really interesting that I hadn't thought of it before and kind of funny in a way. So let's see, what's next? Pen Fast. Okay, I did want to just do a little mini segment on how I'm feeling in general about being on my Pen Fast, not buying any pens or inks or stationery related stuff. It has actually been since the last purchase was May 17th, was that Benu Euphoria Pink Champagne. So it's been almost 2 months, and I'm starting to get a little bit more insights, and I feel better about it. I do still kind of avoid marketing. I've had to do that because it doesn't take much to kind of create another want when I don't, I really don't want to deal with those kinds of feelings of wanting another pen right now. A little bit closer to Christmas, that's fine, because then, we have our budget, and if we decide that I can have a pen for Christmas, then I'll be looking for one. But I don't want to be constantly having that kind of a thing. And I think the only way to avoid it is to stop buying and to just feel the feelings and move through them. And that's kind of what I've been doing, and I feel good about it. But I have to admit, there's times on Instagram where I'll just exit quickly because I start seeing things, and it's no joke that just the constant exposure to things that look neat and that you might want, And I haven't even been jotting things down on my like a long-term wish list lately, and I haven't looked at it. I just decided I really want to be happy with what I have, at least until October, when I might think about a Christmas pen or something. And so just generally, I want to save the rest of my thoughts on that for a separate video, because I kind of like the idea of real solid check-ins every so often. So I'll just save the rest for that. But okay, the third topic is a little bit trickier to put a caption on, but yeah, I've been struggling a bit with overload with ever since the second storm system. Of course, we had a tropical storm, and we got through that. That was fine. And then we had Hurricane Beryl headed right toward us, and that was when we really dialed down on our preparations, and when I got oversaturated with news. And then I think, well, weather, I had to be constantly tuning into the weather, because we have to retrack it and see, how's it doing, what's it likely to do. So then I also kind of got into too much other kinds of viewing. I try to go looking for my own sources and do my own research on general news, including politics, and not get involved with the mainstream stuff. But too much of that real quickly just is overwhelming, and it's like, wait, there's real life to live here, and then there's speculation and all of this, but there's just so much that action that I can take, myself. And so I've had to try really hard to get that under control again. But I'll admit, it started with the hurricane, with trying to make sure we didn't miss a hiccup in that, because just the tiniest little differences along the Gulf Coast make a big difference. I'm still praying for everybody in the Houston area and Vermont. I mean, that storm, went in and then went right up, and everywhere in between that was, hit with flooding, with wind damage. Just unbelievable what these storms can do. And my home state was hit harder than our area. Of course, Houston was hit harder than Vermont, I think, but how can you really compare it when somebody's house, Anyway, I don't want to get into graphic details, because that's what got me into trouble, was overwatching and over-consuming, and everything. But mercy sakes, it's just incredible. Just incredible. And anyway, that was the next thing that I wrote down after, information overload and so on, was about storm preps. That is really what has kept me very busy, even beyond. I mean, we keep our food and our water and our pet food and our supplies and medications. We keep everything topped off. We keep extra gasoline. We do all of that. But we started to really drill down on who might stay here and what might we need for, sheltering if everybody decided to stay here and shelter in place. And then we got back into the subject, and I got into quite a bit of research on evacuating or not evacuating, because we've been through quite a few of these, and we live in this area in South Texas where not only do you not know where the hurricane is going to come on shore, but you don't always know what it's going to do after, and you can wind up in a worse place. And so that is very difficult. I mean, we don't live right on the, we don't live where it's storm surge that we're worried about. It's flooding, loss of power, that kind of thing. So our general rule is to shelter in place, but we always know we have to be open to evacuating if that's what it's looking like it's going to be, you know, too long of a time, maybe for recovery. And so it gets tricky. And, you know, I think the biggest influence for me was, there was Katrina and then there was Rita. And our area started ordering evacuations and people started to leave, and many thousands more than needed to leave. It was a really rough thing, and there was more loss of life out on the freeways, and there was a lot more misery of people in gridlock traffic without enough gasoline and that kind of thing. So I will forever be affected by that, not because we didn't go, but I had actual people screaming at me because the call I had made was that we were going to shelter in place. And you know, we had my elderly mother and father-in-law, a dog and 2 cats and ourselves, and perfectly good vehicle that could have fit everything and everything we needed for provisions. But those are sometimes really difficult calls to make. And so that has, you know, I have to transition back to somewhat normal and realize that I did quite a bit of the work as far as, you know, I even bought some twin sheets for some cots, and I got more things this weekend at a little, what do you call it, thrift shop, because that was on my long-term list to make sure I had enough, you know, lightweight sheets, things like that, so that we would not be, because you know right away that you're going to not have power if it comes too close to you. With Harvey, we were without power, I think, for 5 or 6 days, and that was miraculous. To me, that was miraculous that they got us back up and running that quickly, but it got hotter and hotter, let me tell you. So, okay, on to better things. Goodness gracious. So basically summer is reading and writing and working outside and taking care of the cats. They're all doing really good. And I felt a little bit disconnected from this community just recently because I hadn't had, you know, even time to do as much content or work on it or planning, which I enjoy. I enjoy very much just kind of leading up to doing a video. So I'm happy that we have a few days in between to kind of, you know, because I just feel like it's probably going to be a really active tropical season, and I want to stay on our toes, but we have to breathe and carry on no matter what's happening, and you know, kind of lift each other up through whatever positive there is. And pens and inks and letter writing and journaling, and I went ahead and ordered the book that he's actually using for the book club for the Seneca Letters on Ethics. And you know, it's very interesting because I was using the free online edition, but then I decided I wanted to have the book, so I'd be on the same page as everybody that's doing this. I'm not going to say I regret it, because I always like having a hard copy and not being technology dependent. Like, you know, even if the power's out, I'll have my little reading light and I can read. But the one online, the free edition, is really almost easier to understand. And the other thing is that with this book, in each letter, they didn't do the caption of the topic. And I don't know why they did that. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. Like, it just says letter number 85. And so you have to go in the front. And this is not a big deal, but for anybody that was thinking about buying this book, since they are a little bit pricey, so in the front, you have them all. They're all in the, what do you call it? In contents, table of contents. So each letter has like a title. And that's important to me. Like if I'm flipping through, if I'm just wanting to pick one, I'm going in order and I'm only on like the 5th one, I think. You know, like learning to be a friend, poverty and wealth. You know, why they didn't use the little extra ink to put it with the letter too. Anyway, that's just, I don't like little things like that. I like them to do the books correctly, but that's just, you know, according to Chris, I guess. That's all I'd written down. Thank goodness, right? I'm afraid the YouTube checkers will be on me for a couple hours maybe, because I didn't mean to talk about anything upsetting. Maybe I didn't, but just about evacuating and that kind of thing. But it's more preparation, planning, and thinking through scenarios. It's not all about the stuff. It's really about keeping a level-headedness. I mean, yes, you need food and water and pet supplies, and you need your medications. You need all that. And that's just like, that's the prerequisite. But then you have to be able to use your critical thinking skills no matter what your city's doing or not doing, because that changes drastically. And what it reminds me of is school closures when I was a little kid. So this would happen. I grew up in Vermont. We would have, you know, bad weather coming, and they would cancel school, you know, ahead of time. And then nothing would happen. Everything would be fine. People were out driving around. So the next time that an ice storm was coming or something, you know, it just would be an opposite, equal and opposite reaction, not based on current fact. It would just swing wildly, like, well, last time we canceled and we didn't need to, so we're going this time. And it would just be like, you know, there's no way this is safe. You know, you got to think for yourself sometimes, you know, it just depends. But you can see that in many things where there's just a wild swing because of a miscalculation prior. But I would always rather be all packed up, or even, well, we don't board because we've got metal louvers, but, you know, I would never think it was wrong to be prepared and on the safe side. It's okay. You know, you're not really wasting your effort. If nothing else, it's just a practice. So you got used to what you have and where you have it. Like I heard someone say, well, I got the boards, but I don't have the screws to board up. Well, yeah, that's important, you know. And like we found one item that we had that we said, oops, we didn't have the particular battery for that. Well, that's big, you know, that's a big thing. Oh my goodness, why am I'm not a prepper channel. But anyway, I'm going to let you go now because it's not fair. I got you here for the pens and inks. So let me know in the comment section what your trials and tribulations or your best matchups are for pens and inks. I always really enjoy talking to you in the comments. And I'll see you there. And I'll see you in the next video, whatever that happens to be. Stay safe. Please, everyone, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.